Every Saturday, the sunlight would lazily sneak through the blinds, casting long shadows across the bedroom floor. I found solace in the silence of an empty house. Laura, my wife, had left early that morning, off to Yaga, as she always said, for the weekend. This tranquility felt like a sharp contrast to the usual noise of life, but my morning peace was shattered when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. It was Michael, my best friend from college, looking more flustered than ever. His face was etched with worry. "Alex, have you seen it?" he asked, barely letting me get the door open before he blurted it out. "Seen what?" I asked, puzzled by his frantic tone. "The family ring. I can't find it." He was tugging at his hair in distress. "This ring has been passed down through generations in my family. I'm sure it was here last week when we were playing," he explained, the panic in his voice rising. "We'll find it. Michael, come in. Let's search together," I said, trying to hide my growing anxiety. Michael wasn't the type to lose things, especially not something that important. The search started in the living room. We retraced our steps from the previous week, but no luck. I felt my worry mounting as we checked under the sofa cushions, in the kitchen, and eventually in my bedroom. It felt strange, invading my own personal space like this, but Michael was desperate, and I couldn't say no. As I bent down to look under the bed, my hand brushed against something cold and metallic. Without a doubt, it was Michael's family heirloom, hidden partly beneath a layer of dust. The relief on his face was immediate when I handed him the ring, but something heavy settled in my chest. How did it end up here? I muttered, a knot forming in my stomach. Michael's expression shifted from relief to confusion. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice now tinged with bewilderment. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, and then Michael spoke again. "I should go. Alex, thanks for finding it," he added, his voice hollow. The usual warmth had vanished. As he turned to leave, I was left alone, my mind racing with unsettling thoughts. The location of the ring, combined with a convenient weekend location for Laura, seemed to be too much of a coincidence. I needed answers. Feeling the need to deal with this directly, I called Laura, but she didn't answer. Rage grew in me as I replayed possible scenarios in my head. I didn't have to wait long for the truth to come out. After work, when I went to the bedroom, I saw them through the slightly ajar door, Laura and Michael, clearly not in a state of peaceful meditation. It was like being stabbed in the heart. My world didn't just shatter, it turned to stone. "How could you?" My voice was unnervingly calm, but the venom in it made both of them flinch, pulling away from each other. Laura's desperate apologies and Michael's stammering excuses filled the room, but I couldn't hear them anymore. A cold plan for retribution began to take shape in my mind. This wasn't the end. No, it was only the beginning. I would make sure that both my unfaithful wife and my so-called friend would regret this betrayal in ways they could never foresee. The tension in the room was suffocating as I sat at the dining table. The morning light, which had once seemed so peaceful, now felt stark and cruel. Laura sat across from me, her eyes swollen from tears, searching for some glimmer of forgiveness in mine, but I had nothing to offer. Michael hurried off after the confrontation, leaving Laura to face the consequences alone. "Alex, please let me explain," she begged, her voice trembling. "I think you've said enough," I replied coldly, my fists clenched under the table. "How long, Laura? How long has this been going on?" My gaze was as sharp and cold as ice, my heart frozen with the weight of her betrayal. "It wasn't planned, Alex. I swear, it just happened," Laura stammered, unable to look me in the eye. "Just happened." I snapped, my voice rising in disbelief. The heart inside me quickly twisted into raw anger. In our house, in our bed. What the hell were you thinking? I don't know, Alex. It's a mistake, a terrible mistake, she cried, her words drowning in sobs. I stood up suddenly, the chair scraping loudly on the parquet floor. Keep your tears, Laura. You'll need them again, I muttered coldly, turning away and heading to my office. My mind was already buzzing with plans. This wasn't just about revenge. It had sparked a fire of anger in me that I couldn't extinguish. The first step was securing my finances. I spent the morning transferring funds and changing passwords. Every action I took, every account I blocked, felt like a small victory, a piece of my life being put back together. Later, I met with Diane, a lawyer recommended for cases like mine. She was all business, cold and efficient. Make sure she doesn't get anything, I told her firmly. We'll do our best, Diane said, her voice steady. I suggest you gather evidence of the affair. It will strengthen your case. When I returned home, Laura was already packing. I stood in the doorway, watching her in silence. I need some time to think. I'll go to a hotel, she said, not even bothering to look at me. Good. Think about how you destroyed our marriage for a fling with my best friend. I shot back, my words sharp, as I watched her zip up her suitcase. And don't think that'll save you from the consequences. When she left, I was alone. The house felt like a ghost town. The weight of everything that had happened crashed down on me, and the pain of betrayal mingled with a strange, dark satisfaction. My heart ached, not just from the betrayal, but from the love that still lingered, buried beneath the anger and the growing need for revenge. That night, lying in bed, the emptiness beside me felt like a gaping hole. I glanced at our wedding photo on the bedside table and, in a fit of rage, threw the frame to the floor, shattering the glass. Sleep was out of the question. My mind replayed everything, the lies, the betrayal, over and over again. The pain of it all was unbearable, but I knew that the next days would only get harder. They would test my resolve and reveal the true cost of the path I had chosen. The following days passed in mechanical motions. Work, meetings, legal consultations. They all felt like steps in a carefully orchestrated plan for revenge. The house without Laura seemed cold and hollow. Every room echoed with memories of a time before everything turned into betrayal. One afternoon, while going through some documents, the doorbell rang. It was a courier with a package for me. I couldn't help but smile, irony thick in the air, as I thought about how she was losing everything, bit by bit. Later, I met with Diane, who gave me the news. I'd frozen Laura's cards and blocked our joint accounts. There's not much she can do now, I said, a grim sense of satisfaction settling over me. Diane nodded, her expression unreadable. It's a bold move, Alex, but you should prepare for her reaction. People who are backed into a corner can be unpredictable. I'm counting on that, I replied coldly, feeling the weight of my own words. On the drive home, my phone buzzed non-stop. I finally checked it and saw a string of missed calls from Laura. I answered, my voice icy. Alex, what's going on? The cards are blocked, and the landlord's demanding payment. Laura's voice trembled with confusion and panic. Consider it the consequences, I mentioned. I responded flatly. You should have thought about the finances earlier. Alex, please. It's not like you think. Can we just talk? She begged. Talk about what? I interrupted, my voice biting. A part of me recoiled at how ruthless I was being, but another part couldn't stop. The next day, I dealt another blow to her reputation. I sent a letter to our mutual friends, telling them the truth about Laura and Michael's affair. I didn't hold back. I painted the full picture, but made sure to emphasize the betrayal I'd endured. By evening, the responses started flooding in, shocked, supportive messages, all of them on my side. The public court had spoken, and the verdict was clear. I was the victim. That evening, I got a call from Laura. Her voice was barely audible, broken. How could you do this? You did it to yourself. I shot back, the warmth that once lingered between us completely gone. You started all of this. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing down on me. Every move I made seemed justified, but something inside felt empty. Was I becoming the villain in my own story? I poured myself a drink that night. The amber liquid shimmered in the fading light of the sunset, the house eerily quiet. The silence was suffocating. It hit me then. Revenge was changing me. But the question that gnawed at me was, could I live with myself when it was all over? Days bled into weeks. There was nothing but cold silence between Laura and me. The legal battle dragged on, but I made sure every step was calculated, ensuring that justice and revenge tilted in my favor. Still, something gnawed at me, an unsettling feeling that I wasn't done yet, that I needed something more to close this chapter of betrayal. Then, one evening, Michael called. His voice was shaky, full of guilt. "Alex," he said, "we need to talk. I can't hide it anymore." His words gave me an idea for the final move. "All right, Michael. Meet me tomorrow at the warehouse on Daknaya Street. Noon." The plan was simple, ruthless. I knew exactly what I had to do. The next day, under the harsh midday sun, I waited inside the dim, empty warehouse. The air was thick with the dust of forgotten things, much like the remnants of my marriage. Michael walked in, his eyes darting around nervously. "Why are you here?" he asked, glancing uneasily at the exit. "Because what's going to happen next shouldn't be overheard," I said, stepping from the shadows, my voice flat. Michael's gaze flicked to the door again, but he didn't move. I could almost feel him trying to find some way to explain his actions, to give some noble justification. But the confession that was supposed to bring closure only lit the fuse for my anger. "Worthy." I laughed bitterly, the sound cutting through the air. "You think cheating in my own house is worthy?" "Alex," Michael stammered, but his apologies were useless. It was too late for that. My voice was like ice as I interrupted him. "Maybe you should listen to this," I said, dialing a number and turning on the speakerphone. A woman's voice came through, sharp but oddly familiar. "Is it ready?" she asked. "Yes," I answered, never breaking my gaze from Michael. The shock on his face was immediate as the realization hit him. The woman on the phone was a private investigator I'd hired months ago. She gathered not only evidence of the affair, but also of embezzlement and fraud. Turns out, Michael had been keeping himself busy with more than just betrayal. Michael went pale. No, that's not true." "The evidence says otherwise," I said coldly, cutting him off. "And when the police find this, along with the money at your workplace, you'll have to answer not just for your affair, but for much more." Michael staggered back, fear clear in his eyes. "Did you set me up?" His voice was shaking, disbelief coating every word. "Yes," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "Consider this my final move. Checkmate." I walked away without another word, and as I stepped out into the daylight, I could already hear the sirens approaching in the distance. The weight of what I had just done settled over me, and I felt something heavier than satisfaction, a deep, gnawing emptiness. Laura and Michael would pay for their betrayal, but at what cost to me? As I drove home, it hit me. The saga of revenge, of betrayal, was over, but the scars it had left would form a new chapter in my life. Trust would always remain out of reach, a casualty of a war with no real winners, only survivors.